Bella Swan from Twilight, a self-insert character who came off as emotionless and extremely bland in the movies. Did you know that in the book she had some personality though? I mean, it's not a lot, but I was much more invested in her character than movie Bella. In this video, we're going to talk about each portrayal of Bella, why I believe book Bella was better, and what the movies could have done to implement her personality more. You're watching Renee Rule with Reulerverse, and I'm an author who has studied storytelling my entire life. So when I give my take on these fantasy stories, I know what I'm talking about. Let's do this. Movie Bella. I wish there was a lot of things I could say about movie Bella, that I could kind of break her down like I did in the book versus movie Edward video, but unfortunately with her character there's even less to work with than movie Edward. I'm not sure if it was the direction, the actors, or both, but Kristen Stewart couldn't emote in any of her scenes. She wore that same blank expression no matter what, and that really took me out of the movie. After all, how can we root for someone who doesn't seem to care about anything? Who, no matter what happens to her, reacts in the exact same way. She didn't feel human, she felt like a prop in her own movie, honestly. Despite that harsh take I just made on Bella's movie character though, there are some inklings of the version that we see in the book in the movies. When Charlie gives Bella that terrible truck, you know, the iconic old truck that's always breaking down, she does complain about it like in the books, but then she doesn't seem to care. It's like one scene that she's upset about this truck, and then for the rest of it it's like, oh, it's fine, it's just kind of in the background, it's just kind of a prop, just like her. Bella is also determined to be a vampire no matter what Edward or the Cullens try to tell her, so movie Bella definitely inherited that stubbornness as well that we see in the books. And then there's, I'm sorry guys, I'm really trying, but I'm coming up blank. I guess Bella isn't afraid of Edward and seems quite brave in the movies, kind of spunky like Elena. I made that comparison in their video, but there isn't any explanation as to why she's like that, and it isn't expanded upon further or explored or anything like that in a normal good story. She has the same backstory as book Bella, but there isn't much on her feelings about her parents being separated. Edward appears in her life and she falls in love with him for some reason. She doesn't have any feelings about events that happened before in her life or what happens after with the conflicts with the vampires and Edward and all that crazy stuff. In fact, we never really see her character change at all or really do anything worthy of note throughout all 5 movies. Forgot Breaking Dawn has a part 1 and part 2, until she turns into a vampire. After that, she seems to have some kind of personality, at least better than before. She's a lot more confident, she's great at controlling herself, she's beautiful. Well, she was already beautiful before, but now she's confident about being beautiful. But again, that's about it. All we get during that arc where she literally loses her humanity, where she is unalived in a very brutal way by her own baby, is that she is now strong and great at everything. And honestly, that doesn't really feel earned. Bella doesn't have an arc in the movies. She's just a generic girl for the main male love interest to fight over. Nothing more. Now, book Bella, on the other hand, does have a lot more to work with, but it's probably less than a lot of you are thinking or than a lot of you remember if you read the books. After all, the movies don't actually deviate that much from the source material, at least plot-wise. But still, we're going to talk about it. Book Bella. Naturally, because this is a book and not an 1.5 to 2 hour long movie, we get more on Bella's backstory. We learn about her parents' rough divorce, her childhood friendship with Jacob, and her need to find a purpose in the world. Like many other teenage girls, Bella is insecure and aimless. Although she gets attention from boys when she goes to that new school in Forks, she doesn't believe she deserves it and therefore does not engage with them. This is never confirmed, but it is heavily implied that Bella is this way because of her parents. Since her mother left her so easily for her new man, and her dad was not ready to take her back, Bella feels unloved and unwanted. This is why when someone as beautiful and strong as Edward starts paying attention to her, she falls head over heels for him, and fast. The dialogue between Edward and Bella is also much more dynamic and interesting in the books. Here's a quote to show you what I mean. "The truck works just fine. Thank you very much for your concern. But can your truck make it on one tank of gas? I don't see how that's any of your business. Stupid shiny Volvo owner. The wasting of finite resources is everyone's business. Oh, come on. You have to know the effect you have on people. I dazzle people. You haven't noticed? Do you think everybody gets their way so easily? Do I dazzle you? Frequently. About 3 things I was absolutely positive. First, Edward was a vampire. Second, there was a part of him, and I didn't know how dominant that part might be, that thirsted for my blood. And third, I was unconditionally and irrevocably in love with him." Now, don't get me wrong, most of these quotes are still very Edward-centric, still within our theme of Bella sort of being, a prop and not a character. We don't really get to know that much about Bella from them, only that she loves Edward very, very much. But you must admit that those are still much more entertaining than what we got in the movies. It's also important to know that Bella had actual hobbies and kind of a life outside of Edward. She loved to cook and listen to Linkin Park, and she hated that truck that her dad gave her and always complained about it. This isn't a lot, but it's worth noting. In fact, Edward and Bella bonded over their love of Linkin Park, and when they broke up, Bella was devastated when she found out he took the CDs back from her room. Her constant complaining about her terrible car and attempts to keep its old engines running left room for a lot of hilarious dialogue between her and Edward as well. Bella is also described as a klutz with bad luck throughout most of the books, and Edward has to save her. This is treated as a huge part of her personality and also joked about between the couple. Yes, and I know before you say being a klutz is not a personality, I know. You can tell I'm reaching a little bit with this one too. But the fact that this isn't mentioned at all in the movies really is kind of strange to me. I mean, it was right there. It would have been better than having her be a blank slate. And it was pretty funny watching Edward criticize her every time she got herself into this ridiculous danger because of her bad luck. In general, Bella was an insecure, edgy, and relatable teenager that most girls who read the books were of course able to see themselves in. It was honestly genius writing her this way because women love nothing more than projecting themselves onto someone, especially if a hot guy is involved. However, just because something is a great marketing strategy does not mean the character was well written. No, those are 2 different things. Unfortunately, all these things I just talked about are, again, all there is to Bella. Just like in the movies, Bella doesn't get much of an arc. Even when she turns into a vampire, she's more or less the same, just more confident. Her learning to use her shield ability was cool, and we didn't get much detail about the magic system in the movies. In the books we do, but she learned that ability very quickly, and we didn't get to see much of Bella struggling with her new powers, or how they grew and changed with her. Not to mention, those hobbies and personality traits I mentioned earlier become less impressive when you realize those things were activities all teenage girls liked in the early 2000s. Everyone loved Linkin Park, and cooking is a very common hobby. Being a klutz and having bad luck is also something teenage girls would relate to heavily. Bella also had a very common appearance for girls in America: brown hair, average looks, and brown eyes. So while Bella was certainly better and more entertaining in the books, she was still very much a self-insert character. That's by design too. She's supposed to be that way. You can't argue with results either. There's a reason Twilight is still popular to this day. It does drive me crazy though, because creating an in-depth character with their own unique personality, hobbies, and arc is much harder, yet people seem to prefer self-inserts. I digress though. All things considered, I did like Book Bella. What can I say? She's funny, and her dynamic with most of the characters was interesting. If she was written this way in the movies, I think most of the audience would have liked her too, or at least, without a doubt, she would have been much better than what we got. How to improve Bella in the movies. Now that we know all of this, the way to improve movie Bella and make her more interesting is really quite simple. Give her book dialogue. Honestly, I'm not sure why the director of the movies didn't just tell Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart to act like Edward and Bella's book counterparts. They should have been allowed to have fun with the role and play off the characters' natural chemistry, rather than whatever stilted and forced dialogue we got instead. At the end of the day, what really matters about most of these pieces of media is entertainment value. It's how the characters play off each other that makes something good to most people. The Vampire Diaries is actually an excellent example of this. Terrible writing, but amazing to watch. If you want to know how to make Bella well written while achieving this goal though, here's how I would do it. If I were writing Bella, I would lean much more into the consequences of her backstory. Not only did her parents' divorce make her insecure about her physical appearance and getting along with others, but it also made her insecure about every relationship she went into, including with Edward. She can still be obsessed with him and fall in love quickly, but that love terrifies her, not because he's a vampire, but because she's afraid he will abandon her. Bella clings to Edward and even asks him to turn her into a vampire so he won't leave her. Edward recognizes this behavior for what it is and says vampire or not, he will never leave her. This does not assuage Bella's fears though. When Edward abandons Bella in the second book, this could make Bella's fears and insecurities even worse. I could see this version of Bella clinging to Jacob and even rushing into a relationship with him because she does not want to be alone. Jacob, also having abandonment issues, see my Jacob video for more details, would get attached to Bella very quickly. Then when Bella is forced to go to Rome to bring Edward, you know, the whole melodramatic thing where Edward thought Bella unalived herself, and then he goes to the Vulture to try to do the same to his existence. But yeah, when that happens, the drama with the love triangle would be much juicier than the original. As Bella goes to Rome, she is currently dating Jacob, but Edward is the only one she really wants to be with. However, she no longer trusts Edward because of what he did. He knew her biggest fear with him leaving, and he left anyway. Going into the Victoria arc, both Edward and Jacob would be trying their hardest to convince Bella that they're better than the other one. Then what would ultimately make Bella choose Edward is how he protected her in the big fight scene against Victoria. She'd realized that he really thought leaving was for her own good, but Edward would gladly sacrifice his life for her. I'd also give Bella distinctive hobbies. Maybe she likes to draw or sing, or maybe she's obsessed with self-defense arts like Krav Maga because she has this natural inclination to protect people. A hobby like that could foreshadow her shield ability and explain how she masters it so quickly when she turns into a vampire. This is just me spitballing though. There are many different paths Bella could take when it comes to hobbies, so let me know what you think in the comments. I'm getting too far into this rewrite though. Instead of telling you all my plan this video, I'd rather do a dedicated Twilight rewrite with multiple parts and everything. So I'll save the later books and Bella turning into a vampire for a later video. The point is, Bella is certainly much better than the books, but still a far cry from a well-developed character. She could have been so much better. But what do you think? Let me know down below, and thank you all so much for getting this far into the video, it really helps. Remember to subscribe and let me know what you'd like to see next. With that, I hope I've inspired you, and I'll see you in the next video.